Good morning, everyone. This is Commissioner Bell. Today is Tuesday, July 9th, 2024, and we'll call this meeting to order at 8 a.m. As a reminder, our call-in number is 971-254-3149, conference ID 866-914-607#. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute your phones. You can do this by pressing star 6. Please unmute yourself when called to speak, again pressing star 6. It's very important for all others to remain muted. Thank you. Well, good morning again. I will welcome my fellow Commissioner Olson. Good morning.
Good morning.
I believe we do not have Commissioner Scar with us this morning. And we may not have Eric Swanson with us also. Is that correct? Give him a chance to jump on if he's here. That being the case, we can jump right into the Coastal Caucus. Do we have Senator Weber?
Yes, ma'am. I am right here.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great this morning. Isn't this
It's a
just
beautiful morning.
great time to be living at the coast?
Yes.
My kids are all experiencing temperatures over 100 degrees daily, and here we are basking in the high 70s. It just can't get any better.
Beautiful. Yeah,
I want to
totally
thank
agree.
you. I want to thank you, Commissioner Bell, for having lunch with me and discussing things. It was a very good discussion and a very good lunch, and thank you. And we'll do it again.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you and your friendship and your work in the Senate, and I'm just really grateful to know you.
Thank you. Likewise. Well, the 4th of July was so warm. I did the Warrenton Parade, and there were lots of kids, and there were some really good opportunities to reconnect with people from the north end of the district. And it's the only place that I can go and hear "Go Beavs" and know that they are talking about the Bemidji State Beavers, because there are two gentlemen who live in Warrenton that I went to college with. And so our alma mater is represented on the coast. So it's fun to go there. On Saturday, I was in the Cloverdale Parade, the only parade led by a cow, and Clover once again did an excellent job. And I loved that parade. And I had the opportunity during the time that we were waiting to have a long conversation with Chief Oder on how busy things have been in South County with our visitors, especially at Sand Lake. The number of calls that they respond to down there is amazing. It always floors me that people come here to recreate and forget all of the rules of safety and common sense. And so we are left to pick up the pieces, and sometimes they're in pretty bad shape. So it's interesting how people choose to use their free time. I had my task force work.
That is a very polite way to put
my
that.
notes. I had to get back to my notes here. My task force work has kind of been on hold through the week because everyone took time off and took that chance to relax and enjoy that time off. In the meantime, I have been learning about the importance of eelgrass and its value to young salmon. That is a special challenge we have, especially here in Tillamook Bay. And I wanted to also announce, in relationship to that, there is a Working Lands and Waters group today at 10 o'clock at the courthouse, I believe, is where the meeting is. And so they'll be talking about important issues going forward also. I want to give a shout out to my neighbor, Scott Wenzel, who has been coordinating the Grub Club and feeding kids during the summer. And what an important job it is they have and what they are doing, making sure that kids have a good lunch every day. And I also want to congratulate the new owners of the theater and the new owner of the Beals building. And it it is so nice to see that awning gone and know that things are going to be changing in that area, and we'll have another opportunity for development there. And so you just wait 5 minutes and things change in Tillamook. And lately, all of those things that change are for the good. Yesterday, I met with lobbyists from the healthcare organizations, talking about hospitals and bringing groups together and the positives and the negatives of it, and what is some of the things that are happening in our healthcare organizations that are really impactful, especially for rural Oregon and our ability to have contact with healthcare providers. And as we know, we still don't have dialysis providers here, and we still have the hopes of that happening. But we have to remember that this is happening in lots of other places too. And so we're not just an island that's dealing with this. It's very expensive to become a doctor. The medical tuition bills are amazing, and the time it takes is amazing. And as a result, there has to be ability to pay back, and there has to be a return on that investment. And sometimes we can't offer that, especially in small communities. And so hopefully the time when altruism will once again win will come back to us. But right now, things are in a state of flux, especially for our medical providers. The other thing that I have been working on is, January starts a new term in the legislature, and we have to be ready to go with bills and concepts for bills. And so yesterday we spent about 4 or 5 hours going over specific concepts that we could propose for bills that would be, they would help our area especially. And we have requests out to some people, because we had people approach us with some really good ideas for things. And so we are working diligently on being ahead of the game for our bill concepts to go into the next session. So I know that there are people out there that have ideas for bills that we could propose. If you think it's something valid and I need to be pursuing it, I would appreciate if you would get a hold of me and let me know what your idea is. But know that some of the ideas that people come forward with for me are already in law. And so, we have so many laws, and we have so little time to become familiar with them, that, living our lives, we don't take that time to acquaint ourselves with those ordinances and those laws. And so know that if it doesn't go forward, it's probably because it already exists, or it is something that the majority would not support. So with that, I'm going to close today and let you know that I'm going to a conference this week to explore more issues within our state and within our nation. It's being held in Portland, and I'll come back with new ideas, I suppose, or new understandings for things that we have already. So with that, I'll close. I wish everyone a happy day, and does anybody have any questions?
Thank you so much, Senator. Commissioner Olson, do you have any questions or comments for the Senator?
Thank you. No, I was at the Cloverdale Parade as well, standing in the middle of the street, explaining what was going by. And both she and Representative Javity were there, and lots of others. It was a good turnout, and it just doesn't get much better than that. There are so many people, small children and local dignitaries, and then lots and lots of just regular people having a good time. I don't know how it gets much better than that.
I don't think
agree
it gets
completely.
any better than that. It was a wonderful parade. The other thing I have to add, Commissioner Olson, is that I have been dealing with a water district in Jewel, 47 hookups, and they ran out of water. And so we're finding that there are a lot of challenges, especially to providing water in rural areas, as you know, and as you have been meeting with people. I would like to schedule a meeting with you at some point, not this week, probably latter part of next week, to talk about these water challenges especially. I have been reaching out across the state to see what it is we can do to solve the problems that are especially on the coast with water issues.
Well, thank you, Senator. Yes, I'd be pleased to meet with you and we can talk about solutions. And some of them are difficult and cost a lot of money, and others are more common sense and easily doable. So yes, I'd be pleased to meet with you and we can talk about that. And you're quite right. These issues are common all over Oregon and probably much of rural America, where you simply don't have the critical mass to generate enough money to get things done. And so I appreciate that. So I'll ask our office to set up a time and we'll see what we can do together. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Well, Senator, I wanted to chime in on something that you were talking about downtown Tillamook and investments people are making in downtown Tillamook. I was also thrilled to see that Terry Phillips had purchased the Beals building. The Beals building is there on the corner of 3rd and Main Pacific. Thank you, Main. And there was an antique store there for a long time, but it's been empty for several years. And we're just so lucky to have Terry and people like Terry who are investing in downtown properties and fixing them up. I think I'm excited to see his plans for that building, to see what becomes of it. It's a really cool space. It's a cool building. I've been in it. And it's wonderful when people invest in a community in that way. And also, Sadie and Bill Walker purchased the Tillamook Coliseum Theater, which is, I'm
Yes.
thrilled about that.
Me too.
That's so exciting. Yeah, it really is exciting, isn't it? And
Yes.
it'll be a wonderful family business for them. And they have a daughter who's, I'm not sure how old Ellie is, maybe 10-ish. Ellie will be able to grow up working in the theater with her parents. And it's just, I met Sadie when she moved here. In fact, we both worked at the Headlight Herald, and Sadie moved here from Eugene, and she fell in love with the community. And she's done a lot of interesting things here. She worked at the Headlight Herald. She worked at the college. She worked for the chamber. She's now working.
Yeah.
She's been managing the Tillamook Farmers Market for a number of years, and she fell in love with the community. She wanted to stay. This is another example of that. But it's just a really cool thing to see people invest. Now I'm repeating myself, but
Yes.
to see people invest in the community and do things that are good for them, hopefully, but also benefit
Right.
the rest of the community. And while we're at it, let's just say thanks to the Zerngasts, who are the people who bought the Coliseum Theater and upgraded it a number of years ago before COVID and saved it. Really the Zerngasts
Right.
saved the Tillamook Coliseum Theater and made a big investment so that it can be viable moving forward. And then they were hit with COVID, and that, they just carried it for a long time, bless their hearts, to our great benefit. So thank you to the Zerngasts, and thank you to Sadie and Bill, and to Terry Phillips. It's all kinds of great things happening in downtown Tillamook.
Yes. And you know what we also need to give kudos to is the Tillamook Urban Renewal people on that board who have seen the vision of what could happen in that block. And, the amount, because, urban renewal is all of the people who are in the district contributing to that. And the board seeing fit to be able to invest in that going forward, I think they need recognition for that.
You're absolutely right, and thank you for mentioning it. Yeah, it is a great organization, and you're right, they carry the vision and help move it forward. So you're absolutely right. Thank you.
All righty.
Well, Senator, if you don't have anything else, we can say thanks again and hope you enjoy this beautiful day.
Thank you, and you too.
Thank you. Well, with that, we can move on to Tillamook County Community Health Center. Do we have Ed Colson this morning? Or Marlene or someone? Hey, good morning.
Yep, Ed's here. Yeah, good morning. I just had to come off of mute there. Good morning, commissioners, and good morning, Tillamook County. It's been a hot one out there. So as we dive into the summer months, we would like to share an important message about heat safety. Extreme heat can seriously affect the health of infants, children, and older adults, as well as those who live or work outdoors, have low income or chronic medical conditions. Heat-related illness can happen inside or outside in as little as 10 to 15 minutes. So it's important to know the difference between heat exhaustion, which is treatable by finding a cooler location and drinking water, and heat stroke, which requires emergency medical attention. So to learn more about the signs and symptoms of both, please visit the Oregon Health Authority's Extreme Heat page. And because it's so sunny outside, July is definitely the time to think about UV safety. UV, or ultraviolet safety, is aimed at spreading awareness about the primary cause of the majority of skin cancers, which is UV radiation. We urge the general public to be cautious and adopt preventative measures. The American Academy of Dermatology suggests 3 easy steps for practicing sun safety throughout the year. When outdoors, seek shade when it is suitable. Wear protective clothing that shields you from the sun. Apply a water-resistant sunscreen with an SPF of 30 or higher, which offers broad-spectrum protection. And then perform a self-skin check, which can be helpful to identify any changes in your skin. So if you do notice a new or concerning skin spot, we do have a dermatologist, Dr. Westrom, on site at our Tillamook location through October. Give us a call at 503-842-3900 to schedule, and then learn more sun safety tips from our Facebook page, and let's all practice safe sun and protect our skin. Now, for our health literacy update, we wanted to talk about emergency rooms versus urgent care and getting the right care at the right time. Health problems don't always happen when your doctor's office is open. So for many common health problems, urgent care is a fast and convenient option. Now, if you're having chest pain, symptoms of a stroke, or signs of another serious injury or illness, please call 911. A helpful chart showing health problems that are often treated at urgent care versus the emergency room can be found on our website, tillamookcountywellness.org/bewell. If your injury or illness isn't as urgent, you can always call your primary care provider. Many clinics can see you within a day or two. If you don't have a primary care provider, our office is taking new patients, and so please give us a call at 503-842-3900 to schedule, and that's our health department update for this week.
Thank you, Ed. Hey, can you speak to COVID for a moment? I realize I'm putting you on the spot, so it's okay if you can't, but I observe that COVID is moving through our community again. And in fact, someone in my household tested positive for COVID this morning, not me. And so I'm just wondering if you have any recommendations, if the recommendations for quarantine have changed. Tell me what you know about COVID currently.
Yeah, so Oregon, as a state, has been seeing an increase in COVID-19 cases currently. The guidelines for that are listed on Oregon Health Authority's website regarding quarantine and testing and symptom management. We do have free test kits that are available. They are available at all the public libraries as well as the Tillamook County Community Health Center's front desk on Pacific Street. Those test kits can be picked up there. But as far as the guidelines, I don't have them off the top of my head. I know we have them on the website as well as on Oregon Health Authority that list what people should do if they experience symptoms or test positive. The latest guidelines would be listed on there. And I'm sorry, I don't have it right off the top of my head.
That's okay. Thank you very much, Ed. I appreciate it. Any
You're welcome.
questions for Ed? If not, we'll say thank you, and we can move on to the Nehalem Bay Health Center and Pharmacy. Gail
Yes,
Nelson,
good
are
morning.
you with us this morning? Good morning.
Yes, good morning, everyone. There's a couple announcements from the Nehalem Bay Health Center and Pharmacy. First of all, the Manzanita Parade was a great time. We participated in the parade. We brought our transport van, and several staff and board members walked with us. And it was a very fun event in North County, and I was happy to be a part of it. And we were all very happy to see the good turnout, and it was a wonderful day. So I want to thank Manzanita for sponsoring the parade. And then also our groundbreaking is still scheduled for July 20th at 11 a.m. This is for our new facility here. Some of you may have already been invited formally, but I also want to announce this to the public and invite everyone who is able and willing. This, again, is Saturday, July 20th at 11 a.m., the corner of Highway 101 and Hospital Road in Wheeler. And we're excited about that as well. Otherwise, business as usual. We're open for you 8 to 6, Monday through Friday, and our pharmacy is open from 9 to 5:30. And that's it for me this morning.
Thank you, Gail. Any questions for Gail? If not, we can move on to Tillamook Family Counseling Center. Do we have Frank Hanna-Williams this morning?
Good morning, Commissioners. Frank Hanna-Williams, Director, Tillamook Family Counseling Center.
Good morning. Did we lose you? Well, Frank, I heard you say, introduce yourself, and then I lost your audio. Commissioner Olson, did you also lose Frank's audio?
Yes, he just disappeared. No telling what happened, so I can't hear him either.
Okay, well, sorry, Frank. Sorry we missed your report. Let's move on to emergency management. Do we have Randy Thorpe this morning? Well, perhaps not. I think we should talk for a minute about the burn ban. Chief Ader was in our board meeting last Wednesday and said that the fire chiefs had agreed to Tillamook County-wide burn ban last Wednesday, the 3rd. So that means that the only kinds of fires that are allowed currently are, I think he called them ambiance fires, which means small, contained in a small metal structure just for hand warming, for ambiance. And likewise in campgrounds, small fires contained strictly in the metal fire rings, etc. So that's what I know about burn bans currently. That means certainly no burning of yard debris. Also no burn barrel burning. And I assume that means I saw something on Facebook about someone who was burning weeds with a propane torch. I assume that means that propane torch burning would also be banned. So Commissioner Olson, do you have anything to add, anything you remember about the burn ban from last Wednesday?
No, I did talk with Chief Ader. In fact, he invited us over to 4th of July hamburger cookout. So yes, we've had a number of conversations. I know they've had an extremely busy weekend. The 4th itself was not bad, but boy, over the weekend there must have been a dozen call outs in South Tillamook County. And I think was mentioned earlier, A lot of issues at Sand Lake, and I think there's been a couple of accidents. They even turned on the lights and sirens for a bee sting in Nescowan, I understand. So we got a pretty responsive fire department in South Tillamook County, and I expect it's that way all over. This is the season, and of course, on the 4th of July, instead of our normal 27 or 28,000 residents, we have probably 127,000 people in Tillamook County, and some of them, as was said earlier, do some things they probably wouldn't do back wherever they live. And so, yes, our fire department, and I think the sheriff's office as well, they just do an admirable job. In fact, I had to put new batteries in my scanner from listening. I wore the batteries down this weekend. So I'm sure it was busy. And if you could hear from them, they would tell you all kinds of stories, and not even a call out on fireworks. That's another subject. But yes, I appreciate what they do. And there is indeed a burn ban across Tillamook County, and I think perhaps much of Oregon. And if you look around, things are drying out. So yes, that's what he reported, and no more fires.
Okay, well, thank you. And we can just roll right into your report. And just in case people were wondering, I heard from Representative Javity that he was not available this morning, so I didn't forget him. He just wasn't available to join us. So Doug, shall we just roll right into your report?
We can do that. Did the sheriff have anything? They usually go ahead of the commissioners.
The sheriff is going to join us once a month, and he'd like to do it on the final Tuesday of the month and give a report on everything that went on in that month. Okay,
well, good idea. Well, thank you. Then I will report on a couple of things. We talked about Clover's Day and some of the parades, and as far as I know, they all came off well. There's a really interesting parade. It's actually called a walkabout in Nescowan, where anybody shows up, ages from 0 to 100, I suppose, and many of them have costumes. They decorate their vehicles, their bicycles, and they just roam around Nescowan for about an hour and come back where they started. And it's got to be one of the better 4th of July activities in America, because you see little teeny 3-year-old kids with all kinds of costumes on, sort of like Halloween. And then you have adults who've all dressed up as well. They've decorated their vehicles, and, you know, a good time is had by all. It's really about as Americana as you can get. So we also had the Clover's Day, and I know they have wonderful parades in Rockaway and Manzanita. So we're past that part of it, but the next up, at least in South County, is Dory Days, and that will be on the 19th, 20th, and 21st, 2.5 days over the weekend. And I believe this will be either the 65th or the 66th annual Dory Days. Been going on a long time. And it's now part of the Oregon Traditions, which is Heritage Traditions, which is an actual organization that designates some of the longstanding and really unique events. And so we joined that crowd, and it's been, Dory Day has been part of that now for 3 or 4 years, maybe 5. But it joins really good company like the Portland Rose Festival, the Pendleton Roundup, the State Fair, the Sandcastle contest in Cannon Beach, and a few others that have been going on for over 50 years. And that, by the way, is a criteria. You have to have been doing it continuously for 50 years. So I'll mention a couple of other things in passing. The county now has entered into a definitive agreement with the owners of what's known in Tillamook as the BLM, Bureau of Land Management building. The county will acquire that if all the due diligence turns out okay, meaning checking for structural integrity and electrical and all the due diligence that we do, including parking and traffic and so on. And if we end up buying it, and it looks like we will, that will become the courthouse and also the offices for the district attorney. So as we've mentioned before, Tillamook County has ranked near the bottom in the quality and quantity and the operational characteristics of courthouses across Oregon. I think out of 48 operating court facilities, we're number 44. So the state has been after Tillamook County for quite a number of years to do something about that. because state law provides that counties must provide the facilities, not necessarily pay the judges and attorneys and all of that, but they do have to provide the facilities. And hence, there's a courthouse in every county in Oregon. So if that goes through, then that will become where the courts are located. But it's a few years out. It's if this goes through, and it should, then it will be a couple or 3 years, perhaps even longer, until it actually gets remodeled and the security matters are taken care of, and kind of a rehab of a building that's about 30 years old. That's so something to look forward to as time rolls on. Next thing I'll talk about is we have a meeting this week of our budget committee and the board, the commission, and it's a bit unique. We're calling it a budget roundtable, and what it is the budget committee and the commission, which is part of the budget committee, and some of our senior staff and ultimately the public will have an opportunity to look at a whole variety of options to keep our budget balanced as we roll forward. What's happening that we've talked about on a number of occasions is, excuse me, the state has changed how they fund or help fund counties by modifying the harvest level in the Tillamook State Forest and other state forests as well. And then, of course, the county is subject to inflationary pressures and cannot increase property taxes to follow based on some legislation that was passed quite a number of years ago. And so we find ourselves, like a lot of other organizations, playing catch up and not able to balance the budget. This last time around, meaning the current budget that just started July 1, we had to draw down our reserves in a range of $3 million. And so we can't do that every year, obviously. So we're going to look at all these different options and talk about what is realistic, what could be done in a relatively short period of time, what might take some legislation, what would take longer, and some of the pros and cons. And there are some really straightforward options like putting out a hiring freeze, those kinds of things. But there's some others that are really rather disagreeable if we follow up on them, including going to a 4-day week, perhaps cutting our staff hours and those kinds of things, which absolutely nobody wants to do, but it certainly needs to be part of the conversation. So more to come on that as we have our meeting and talk about these various options, because like other cities and counties, governmental agencies, and I think a whole lot of businesses, things are pretty tight. And we need to do what we need to do, meaning there are mandated services that the county has to do, and there are others that are somewhat discretionary. So we'll be looking at those as well. So more to come on that. Next thing I'll mention, we're moving forward on asking the voters to consider approving a bond for upgrading the public safety radio system across the county. The system we have now goes back to the late 1990s, early 2000s, and was actually purchased before iPhones were even invented and on the market, if you can believe that. So our system now, which is used by the sheriff's office, the police departments, fire departments, ambulance service, some of our public works and others, is well over 20 years old. Parts are unavailable, and so we have specifications now for a new state-of-the-art system, which will be all digital. Current system is mostly analog, if you follow those sorts of things. And so we'll ask the voters to approve a bond measure of roughly $25 million in November. So we're moving forward on that. We have to actually turn the ballot title into the Secretary of State in early August. So we only have a few weeks left to get all the details together. We've met with bond counsel, we've met with financial advisors and others. And so things are coming together, and we'll certainly try and do a good job to explain that in some detail to the voters. So the last thing I'll mention is the county fair. The county fair is coming right up here. It's only about a month away. Let's see, it's on August 7, 8, 9. That's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, August 7 through 10, actually. I think all the entertainment has been arranged. Everything's coming together. The fairgrounds are being spruced up, although they're in pretty good shape year round. So lots more to come on that one. But you know what happens in Tillamook County? Much of the county shuts down. And I don't just mean county government. I mean our stores and lots of the businesses and others. They just hang out a closed sign and say we're at the fair. And I don't know of any other place that does that. And I think that's because we have such a great fair. So mark your calendars for August 7, 8, 9, and 10 at the county fair, which is just east of Tillamook. And we'll keep things moving on that front as well. So I think that's about all I have, Commissioner. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for mentioning the BLM building purchase agreement. I think that's very both exciting in terms of the possibility of it. We have, I don't know for how long this problem has been kicked around, but at least 15 years, but maybe longer, the problem of inadequate space in the courthouse and inadequate court facilities has been kicked around for a long, long time and kicked down the road. And it's expensive, but there is matching state funding available to build a new court facility. So it feels awkward to talk about our budget woes in the same conversation that we're talking about building a new courthouse. It's awkward for us. And so, I think we should address that. And we will be talking about it, of course, in the budget workshops. And the truth is that it's our problem to solve. It's the county's problem to solve that we have inadequate court facilities and inadequate courthouse space. And the problem is growing as the court programs grow, special courts grow, the staffing grows. That problem is growing of inadequate space. And so over the years, as other boards of commissioners have deferred taking action because of inadequate funding, of course, the price tag for whatever needs to be done just keeps going up. So we were talking in our meeting on Wednesday, and by the way, if people are interested in this issue, please take a look at the recording. Either there's a full recording, and then there's also a transcript recording of our meeting last Wednesday. Our Chief of Staff, Rachel Haggerty, did a really great job of producing a historical document that talks about the issue in its entirety and our current approach to it. So if you're interested, please check out that from our meeting last Wednesday, which was at the very end of a long meeting. So toward the 2-hour mark. I won't do as good a job as Rachel did explaining it, but the bottom line is that it's our problem to solve. The problem is growing. And the longer we wait, the more expensive it is. And there are a couple of things. One, in buying an existing building and renovating it is a lot less expensive than building something from the ground up. So there's that. And additionally, if we build a new court facility, as opposed to an annex or something else. If we build a new facility, there are matching funds available from the state that are not available otherwise. And there's state funding available because our court facility is so woefully inadequate. As Doug was saying, it was rated, third worst in the state or something. And so it all comes together in a way that makes us feel like hopeful that we could pull it off. So, it would be a long process. And there are a lot of ifs in between now and then. There are a lot of significant ifs. So we'll have to do a lot of due diligence to check and see whether or not that we have to do some design work right away in order to see whether or not that facility could be renovated to meet the court's needs, whether or not it's even possible. There has to be a traffic study to find out whether or not the traffic patterns work and the parking is possible, and a commercial appraisal, of course. And so there's a lot of due diligence to be done in the next couple months to determine whether or not this is possible. And then if it is, it's, a slow train moving. We're thinking maybe we could have it done by 2029. So that's the story. And if you're thinking, wow, that's a lot of money to spend on, during a time in a budget crunch, that you're totally right. So, but, it's not, if we wait, it's going to be more. So there you have it. And I also wanted to mention about the budget workshops, the budget roundtables that Doug was talking about. People have been reaching out to me about how, whether or not they should be bracing for dire adjustments to our budget for next year. And the truth is that we don't know that yet, but we want to be prepared. We want to be prepared for if we're in a significant shortfall situation next year. We want to be prepared to have a plan and say, okay, well, we've talked about this. We thought this through. We looked at what are the most reasonable options for generating revenue? What are the least painful options for decreasing spending? And to be able to approach it in a thoughtful, proactive way with a plan. So that's the idea about the budget roundtables, which I really appreciate Doug pulling this together. And I agree that we should talk about absolutely everything. There are really nothing that's off limits to talk about in terms of the budget, other than there are services we're mandated to provide, and those aren't off limits to talk about, but we have to provide them. So beyond that, everything's on the table. So that's important work. It's uncomfortable. It's making people nervous. I got a call last night from somebody who was like, "Oh, should I be worried about this?" And I think the point is that we should all be worried about it, and that's why we're talking about it. But not necessarily worried about worst case scenarios for next year. So hopefully not. Hopefully not. And we're also talking about ways to generate revenue. For example, in addition to Doug was talking about asking the voters to support the new radio project for replacing the radio system for first responders, which I think is absolutely essential for their safety. I don't think in good conscience we can ask people to continue to do that work if we can't keep them safe in terms of communications. So that's essential. We're also talking about coming to the voters probably in the May 2025 election and asking voters to approve increasing the TLT tax, that's transient lodging tax, to use the increase to support public safety. So I'm very encouraged about that, because we've heard a couple of times on this call that the demand on public safety organizations and staff from visitors is tremendous, particularly in the summer, of course, but also now we have people coming year round. So our sheriff's office is funded for a county of 27,000 people, but in July we have easily 127,000 people here, but probably more. And so it's we don't have the normal kind of funding to handle that kind of pressure on our public safety departments. And so by increasing the TLT tax, potentially, what we're thinking about is there would be a benefit there to how to invest that money. People may or may not remember that from TLT tax, by the legislature determined that 70% of it can be spent on tourism facilities or promotion, and the other 30% can be spent at the government's discretion. So we're thinking the 30% of the increase would be for public safety, and the additional 70% of the increase would be a tremendous opportunity to invest in tourism facilities here in Tillamook County that would benefit tourists, yes, but all of us also. So that's a great opportunity, and I anticipate that voters will be supportive of that, just because because we're asking tourists to pay for services that they're getting when they're here. So we're looking at all the revenue increase possibilities that we're aware of also. So that's big work. That's big work that we're engaged in. And I'd like to finish on a happier note and just say that I attended 4th of July events in North County. I'm glad we had reports from South County, and I can offer the report from North County. I attended the Manzanita Parade. I was in the Manzanita Parade, and it is just fabulous. All of our parades are fabulous, but I'll talk about Manzanita because I was there. It was just so delightful. And like Doug was describing, you know, there were all ages, and people were so creative with their floats and their really just really very fun stuff. And what I loved about it the most is that it was a couple of hours in a community where absolutely everyone was happy. Everyone who was in the parade was happy. Everyone who was watching the parade was happy. You know, and it struck me that it's not very often where you are somewhere now where everyone is happy. So that was joyful, and the weather was great. And so thanks to everybody who participated in that parade, but also there was a whole core of volunteers. There were many volunteers who organized and made that parade happen, and it really was a smashing success. It was terrific. And then in the evening, I went to the Rockaway Beach fireworks, which are gorgeous. Rockaway Beach does such a great job with fireworks. So that was fabulous. And there were there electronic signs saying no fireworks, like no personal fireworks, but there were so many. And it really brought home the pressure on local law enforcement. You know, there were so many people lighting off illegal fireworks that there was no way any combination of police forces could have addressed that. So just to Doug's earlier point, you know, people come here and break the rules in ways that maybe they would or maybe they wouldn't in their own hometowns, but they come here and do it. So luckily, I didn't hear of any fires. I didn't hear of any accidents, but altogether, I thought it was a wonderful 4th. And with that, one more thing I want to say is that on Saturday, I went to a memorial service for a woman named Pat McGrath from Rockaway Beach. And I just want to mention Pat because she was a devoted volunteer. She did astonishing service in her community, and she was beloved. Her husband, Jerry, also, but he died maybe 8 or so years ago. And she was just beloved, and a lot of people showed up, and it was a very sweet, heartfelt service. And when people who do tremendous service pass, I just think about who among us, how are we going to step in to fill that gap? You know, when people do so much, it calls on those of us who are left behind to step up, step in, and try to fill their shoes. So maybe impossible, but still, I think we're called to do it. So with that, I will move on to the cities and start with Manzanita.
Oh, Commissioner, before you do that, could I add one thing to the budget that I think is important?
Please.
We've talked now about the ups and downs of our budget, and before people get too far down the road and upset or angry or engaged, let me distinguish between a special fund and the general fund. And the distinction is important because special funds, there are probably 20 plus in the county, and there's only one general fund. A general fund is where a lot of basic government services are funded, and that's the money over which the commission and the budget committee have some discretion. The special funds are separate and really can't be used for items in the general fund. For example, the health department is entirely operated with special funds from a large number of sources. And so if there's a grant that comes in, for example, for a particular service in the health department, it must be used for that service and it cannot be used elsewhere in the county. The same thing with our parks department, for example, they take in money when people stay overnight or visit our campgrounds. That money stays in that particular budget and helps fund the long-term improvements as well as operating expenses. Same thing with the library and a lot of others. The money that is generated, and there's a separate tax levy to support the libraries, that money stays within the library system. It doesn't go to the general fund. So when you hear us talking about some drastic cuts or all kinds of ideas, pro and con, what to do, we're mainly talking about the general fund over which we have considerable discretion and where a lot of general services are provided, like our recording of real estate matters and elections and the sheriff's office and a number of others. But the special funds are separate. So we can't just go in and say, okay, let's take some money from the health department and put it over in the sheriff's office. So I think people need to at least understand the basics of that. So those are some of the restrictions that are in place for counties and cities and general government across our land. Is you really can't intermingle all these monies, and people don't understand it unless you're do this stuff all the time. So thank you for letting me clear that up a little, and hopefully that will answer a few questions for some of our listeners.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that clarification, and that is good information, and you're absolutely right, of course. So with that, let's move on to the city of Manzanita.
Good morning, Commissioner Bell. This is Catherine.
Good morning.
Thanks to everyone for the nice comments about our parade. We were pretty happy about it ourselves. This is our second one since we had our pause during COVID, and the committee of very steadfast volunteers that worked on it in preparation, and then all the folks who showed up to help with things like safety and keeping people on track, et cetera. All that work came together really beautifully. We had over 70 entries, and that ranges from everything from a kid on a creatively decorated bicycle to large groups. And what I love to see were all the equipment that showed up, from the Tillamook People's Utility District to our local wastewater agency to our fire and rescue department in this area. So it was terrific, and I agree with Commissioner Bell's assessment about just the feeling on that day. It was really nice. And now that's passed, and I'm sure our committee is already working on their recap. So next year's volunteers will have a good playbook to work from. And now we're on to the present and the future. So I'd just like to say we've got 2 meetings coming up in particular this week. They'll both be tomorrow, our regular council meeting in the evening. And then in particular, a workshop we hold once a month that the councilors have to discuss in greater depth policy or questions that the city faces. Tomorrow, we're going to be focused on our STR policies. That's already come up indirectly through commissioners' comments about the STR fees and possibly looking at an increase in that for the county. We've had a very good and dedicated group of volunteers who serve on our short-term rental committee here in Manzanita. And for the past several months, they've been working on coming up with some recommendations to help council look at whether we should change some of our policies with the restrictions that we put on the number of STRs in our community. And those restrictions have been in place for decades now. So we're looking to see whether now is a time to make a change or whether it is not a time to make a change, and what the impact of those things would be. So I'm in particular looking forward to that. And I hope everyone has a great week. And as always, I've appreciated what I've learned on the call this morning. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Do we have anyone on from Nehalem or Wheeler? How about Rockaway Beach?
Good morning, Tillamook County. Charles McNeely from Rockaway Beach.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning. So to begin, the Oregon Marine Board has begun work to survey the shoreline and underwater areas adjacent to our leased Lake Lytle Park property. The Oregon Marine Board will use this information and the results of our 2023 Lake Lytle Park community input to develop a park facility concept later this year. Associated with this effort, we've been notified by the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department that we should receive our $430,000 award that will help fund the restroom project at that location. On Friday, the 28th of June, the city submitted a grant application for funding to perform due diligence work and purchase of the lower half of the Jetty Creek watershed. As many of the details of the potential land acquisition have yet to be determined, such as total acreage, timber valuation, and bare land value, our application was based on conservative estimates. The city requested $3,375,000 for the purchase of up to 800 acres of watershed and adjacent contiguous property. None of this would have been possible without the generous support of the landowner, Nuveen Northwest Capital, and their exceptional Pacific Northwest team. There is much more work remaining, as you can imagine, as we head towards the potential acquisition in late 2025. It's been a busy week on the recruitment front in Rockaway Beach. Our fire department hired 2 new seasonal firefighters who will begin service this week. Both are certified EMTs and also certified wildlife type 2 firefighters. And we appreciate the grant that we got to help fund their salaries during the summer. The Public Works Department hired a seasonal utility worker to help with facility management and maintenance during our busiest time of year, which we're in the middle of right now. So excited to have that seasonal hire in place to take some of the load off what is a very thinly staffed Public Works Department. And then City Hall hired a replacement for Allie, who moved out of the area, and the new administrative assistant 2 individual will show up at the front desk soon. This individual will work under our city recorder and will be available to fill in for Melissa at public meetings when needed. So this individual starts August 5th. And then, let's see, the fire department responded to a vehicle fire on the morning of June 26th and a water rescue the following Sunday. Really appreciate the work that Chief Hesse has done to build this leading edge volunteer fire department in Rockaway Beach. Let's see. One last item I just want to mention. We had a couple who recently purchased a vacation home in Rockaway Beach. She's a retired teacher who then went back to school to become a trained landscape designer and does landscape design back in the Chicago area. And she noticed the work that we were doing next to the post office and got involved with that project. And then she's now volunteered to help us with the landscaping our Anchor Street park and parking lot area. She's not only going to help design the park's plantings, but she's also going to donate the plants as well. So it's just wonderful to have people like that join our community and step up to volunteer and help. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate your report as always. That's a lot of good news.
Thank you.
Do we have Leanne Welch on from the City of Garibaldi? Or anyone from the City of Bay City? Then let's move on to the City of Tillamook. Nathan George.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
Just want to make sure you can hear me okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Wonderful. Yes, I do have a few things. In our police department, Chief Troxel spent the day with our CIS insurance representatives reviewing best human resource practices and risk management last week. I know I talked about it at the council level, but it's also important to know that they spent the whole day working with our police department, and we were proud to say that our police department is right on track with just a very few minor adjustments needed here and there. So CIS is very pleased with us, and CIS stands for County Insurance Services. They're our property and liability insurer, and they're very pleased, and we're very pleased. During the city council meeting last week, council received a presentation. Oh, I'm sorry, I already mentioned that. I apologize. Last week, Sergeant Harrell continued to work with our information technology company to ensure that we're all set to get our barcoding and computer infrastructure in place for evidence. In the Public Works Department, the Water Distribution Division is in the process of reading water meters throughout this week. Please don't park on or obstruct access to your water meters during this period to ensure an accurate reading. Utility payments are due on the 15th of this month, and convenient payment options are available on our website, or you can call our main number and dial 2 in the directory. The Streets and Parks Division staff will continue to water and maintain the hanging flower baskets along Main Street and Pacific Avenue, in addition to performing routine maintenance tasks like street sweeping, pothole filling, and bioswale maintenance. As more sewer laterals are replaced, the city continues collaborating with contractors and homeowners. Please be aware of the increased construction activity around the town. And just a reminder on that matter that all residents are responsible for their private sewer lateral lines, which are from their residence or their property all the way to the main connection at the street. We are currently in process of listing surplus inventory for auction. Items available include water and wastewater treatment equipment, vehicles, office supplies, building supplies, heavy equipment, and more. These items are open to public bidding and can be found on govdeals.com/Tillamook. So you go to govdeals.com. Please join us for a free, family-friendly outdoor movie night with popcorn and games for children and adults of all ages and abilities at Goodspeed Park on Friday, July 26th. The movie will begin at dusk around 9 p.m. Please bring your choice of seating, chairs, blankets, etc., and any additional snacks or non-alcoholic beverages for your enjoyment. Remember to spread the word by telling your family, friends, and neighbors. We look forward to seeing you there. If you'd like to become a sponsor for future movie nights and events, please contact our Public Works Department by contacting Megan Chinsley, our Executive Assistant, and you can email her at publicworks@tillamookor.gov, or you can go online to our website, or you can call and go to her extension, the Public Works extension. The City of Tillamook is hiring a Public Works project manager/engineer responsible for planning, budgeting, project tracking, design, bidding, overseeing construction, capital projects, etc. Competitive pay and benefits are offered. We're also still hiring for Public Works technicians, and you may apply on our website or swing by City Hall to get an application. For all other inquiries, including maintenance requests for potholes, damaged signs, overgrown vegetation, or any other matters related to streets, parks, or public utilities, as well as general inquiries about our infrastructure projects, road closures, city events, etc., you can always go to our website or email our Public Works Department, again at publicworks@tillamookor.gov. Also, for any urgent matters, you are welcome to call our main line and follow the prompt over to the on-call employees. And in the Public Works room, excuse me, I'm repeating myself this morning, I apologize. All municipal elections on our city website are live and will be through August 13th. Wards 1, 3, 5, and 6 are all open seats, so 4 of our 6 wards have open seats this year. To run for city office, a resident must complete the packet found on the city's website, or it can be picked up at City Hall in the office of the Deputy City Recorder, Tammy Heinzman, through August 13th. Please contact her with any questions. Reminder, if you see something, say something by calling 911 for emergencies and dispatch for non-emergencies. And the next regular council meeting will be held on Monday, July 15th at 7 p.m. We encourage everyone interested in your local government to attend virtually or in person. That's all I have, Commissioners. Short report today, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, with that, I will say thank you to everyone for participating. Thank you, as always, to KTIL for broadcasting, and thank you, Tillamook County, for listening. This meeting is adjourned at 9:03. Have a wonderful day, everyone.